Alright, so there happened a lot of things in the previous week, starting from the iPhone 14 Pro's embargo being lifted. Google has planned to start manufacturing its Pixel devices, Apple hardware subscription, all those things we have already discussed, and we are also going to discuss that in this episode of podcast. And I'm your host Arnav, and with me here is Shreyas, my friend. Hi.
Yo, what is up? What is up, people? Good to be back.
Yes, I'm really excited and happy to record this second episode of podcast because the first episode got a good, reach. I mean, many people commented, many people also appreciated the efforts that we have taken. So thank you so much for that, and support us more so that we'll also bring you interesting stuff like that, which we have bought in the first episode, and we will try to make this a bit more shorter and sweeter and much more interesting too. So let me start with the iPhone 14 Pro's embargo being lifted. And last week, to be honest, there were a lot of controversies and a lot of ranting towards the creators who posted the iPhone 14 Pro's review happened. Like as soon as MKBST posted this video, Mr. Who's the Boss posted, and then I saw Trankin Tech posting. I saw many other creators posting too, and at that time on Twitter, it was very toxic. I started reading comments, hate comments about the creators. Many people started ranting about, the opinions of the creators that they have told in the video about the 14 Pro. See, even I am not an Apple fanboy, but, I also started seeing Samsung doing a silent campaign, which with those creators who didn't collaborate with Apple for getting the review units from Apple. I saw certain creators, I don't want to mention their name, but certain creators posting the S22 Ultra's picture and saying that this looks better than the latest iPhone 14 Pro. Even Samsung also started to rant about, does it fold? It doesn't. So like, what do you think about the whole Twitter situation that happened when iPhone 14 Pro's embargo lifted and all these creators posted? What do you think? I mean, I just want to put that forward.
See, honestly, if you ask me, internet today is basically 75% hate and 25% content, entertainment content, right? So whether you like the design of a phone, whether you like the S22's design or the iPhone's design, is, I'm going to say, it's subjective. Me personally, I like the S22's design. I do. But it's not to say that the Apple's design is bad. It's just a personal choice, a very personal choice. It has nothing to do with facts. It has nothing to do with specs. It has nothing to do with Samsung or Apple. In fact, if you ask me what is one of the best designed phones on the planet, I'd probably say the Huawei Mate 40 Pro Plus.
Oh, the round camera?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I love that design, right? OnePlus 70. Iconic design. Loved it.
7 Pro looks better, no? With the curved
I like the 70 because of the circular camera. Right? So I like that design. So it's all right? Design is subjective. Again, Samsung and Apple have been at marketing loggerheads for a very long time. Apple silently takes digs at Samsung, and Samsung takes very verbal, very hardcore digs at Apple, which is fine.
Samsung does it directly, but I haven't seen Apple doing it against.
Apple does it very silently. On their launch day, they would show, Android versus Apple, and the phone that they would show on the Android would be like an S7 or a Note 20. So they do it silently, right? Which is okay. Like, these are two brands that are fighting it out. Marketing from Apple, marketing from Samsung. They fight. I don't think it should be a reason for people to divide. See, the whole concept is, if I start becoming a fanboy, or if I start trolling Apple tomorrow, or I start trolling Samsung tomorrow, that just enhances the brand's marketing reach. It does nothing for the phone. The phone is still going to sell. Both of them are going to sell. How much and by how many is something that entire trolling just amplifies. So I think it's pointless, having a Twitter debate, sitting here and saying, I don't like the iPhone. Okay, I don't like the iPhone. Great. I posted, 20,000 people retweeted. Is that going to make a difference? Is Apple going to recall the phone and not sell it? Nah.
No.
Then why the toxicity? If you don't like it, post it as an opinion. If you like it, post it as an opinion. It's fine. But, it's internet. Internet is basically 85%, 75% all hate. Whatever you post, you're going to get hate for it.
Did you use the 14 Pro by any chance? Because
No, I did not.
So
I tried it at the store. I tried it at the store.
Yeah, that's what I went to. I went to the store with my friend just to see how the 14 Pro looks. I didn't care
Yeah.
about how the 14 looked because I know it's just the copy paste of iPhone 13.
Yeah.
So I went to the store with the intention of testing the dynamic island, seeing the camera. I was like, okay, this is going to be great. This is going to impress me a lot. I went, I picked up the phone. It was like a very, very big bummer to me because I was like, dynamic. I was really excited to see the dynamic island. But when I used it for some time, I realized that I don't know. It is my opinion. I don't have any hate towards Apple, but then I thought this is interesting, but not a thing that we look for more than 10 minutes. After continuously using the phone for 10 minutes, I neglected seeing that feature. It was not a very eye-catching feature thing. Second thing is the cameras. I expected the cameras to be way more differentiated than the performance of the iPhone because I already have an iPhone 13. I've also used the iPhone 13 Pro. I expected, of course, there will be differences in the camera performance of both of these phones, but I expected a huge change in performance where I was really, really disappointed. I took the phone, I expected it to be like a DSLR, but it was just like the iPhone 13 Pro Max. And that is what I felt actually. So, whatever people were telling on the about the phone in their reviews were actually correct. Even MKBHD told that, he took that phone before the phone being released and he took it outside and people really didn't care because it looked like the 13 Pro Max. So do you think that the hype around the iPhone 14 Pro and the 14 Pro Max with the dynamic island and the new display design is worth the 1,30,000 to be spent here in India?
No,
When
I
I
don't
saw,
think so. I honestly don't think anybody as a consumer should buy, like I said before, like if you have disposable income, if you have 4 lakh rupees disposable, spend 2 lakhs on a phone. Great. If you don't have disposable income, do not spend a ridiculous amount of money on a phone. Especially not, it doesn't matter if it's a Samsung, an iPhone, an Android, a OnePlus, whatever phone you choose. I think it comes down to how much do you want to spend on the phone. But, you know, pound to pound, if I have disposable income today and I'm using anything that is newer than a 12 Pro or 11 Pro maybe, right? I would not call the 14 Pro a groundbreaking phone by any means. Older phones, sure, you'll see like significant differences in the camera, in the display, in all of those senses, in the battery and everything. I think it's fair to hold out for another year. About the dynamic island, I never liked it. I never liked it since the beginning because I don't like small phones. I like big phones. 6.7 inches, 6.6 inches. That's my sweet size to have that phone for. And when you use a big phone, reachability becomes a problem.
yeah,
The dynamic island is not reachable. That's my major issue with it. And I'm so used to the notification shade that the dynamic island is basically just looks like a notification shade in the display to me. It doesn't offer anything that a notification shade cannot. So I don't see a good reason of why you would want it to begin with. Cool feature, yes. If it exists, am I upset about it? No. Can it just can you just ignore it? Yes, of course you can. Of course you
yeah.
can.
I mean, the whole point of iOS 16 is like one hand usage, and that's why they've kept the notifications
At
down.
the bottom.
Before,
Yeah.
yeah, at the bottom. It
Yeah.
was it was at the top, right?
Yeah.
But when Dynamic
Right.
Island showed up, I was like, what? The whole point of iOS 16 just went topsy turvy. Like the
Yeah.
reachability aspect for the Pro Max variant, it is like,
It is
okay, you
insane.
guys told you guys told that iOS 16 is all about one-handed usage, easy usage, everything. But then with the Pro Max variant, if you have the Dynamic Island at the top of the device, how bigger you are, you should be like Shaq O'Neal, who's the basketball player. If you don't know, he's a very gigantic human being. Maybe he can reach with his one thumb, but not normal human beings. See, we are not ranting about the dynamic island feature. It is a great execution by Apple in the software front. But what I'm trying to say is that it is not so great as you think. People who are like who are like waiting to try the iPhone 14 Pro or waiting to buy the iPhone 14 Pro just because of the dynamic island, no, don't go for it. If you get it for 85,000 or 90,000, maybe, but not for 1,35,000 or 1,30,000, 40,000, whatever it is. That is my opinion about the iPhone 14 Pro.
See, all I say is, if you want an iPhone 14, get an iPhone 14. Don't get it because it has dynamic island. It's not a selling point for the phone. And I think for the cameras front also, right? I think, in all honesty, we have reached a stage where smartphone cameras are great to begin with.
Yeah.
I remember, smartphone cameras from 5-6 years ago, and I remember I see smartphone cameras today. No matter what phone you pick in the flagship zone, in like whether it's the 22 Ultra, whether it's the Fold 4, whether it's the 13 Pro Max or the 14 Pro Max, you are going to get good picture quality, right? The difference between the two comes down to how nitpicky you are and what your personal preference is.
True.
I, for one, don't like pixel images. I don't like high contrast images. I like my images to have more detail and more dynamic range. I don't care about the contrast because that's something I can adjust in post. But that's me. A lot of people love to have a contrasty images. They don't really care about nitpick about, See, it's personal preference, right? So for you, maybe the Pixel series is the best camera ever. For somebody who just wants to click a selfie or click random pictures with groups of friends and stuff and post it on Instagram, you can't go wrong with any phone. Forget the iPhone. Pick any phone, you cannot go wrong with it. And if you want to stay in the Apple ecosystem, you don't have an option except for the iPhone.
iPhones, yeah.
So all cameras are, according to me, great. There's the whole point of a camera comparison is actually broken in 2022, right? Because I click 10 pictures from the iPhone, I click 10 pictures from the S22 Ultra, same situation, same scenario, same lighting condition. I'm going to say that I am going to like at least 8 images on the iPhone, on the Samsung, and on the Pixel. It doesn't matter. And 2 of the images will be, I don't like them as much. So here's what I'm saying, right? People will talk about the iPhone for another 60 to 75 days. After that, it's going to be the S23. Leaks will start coming in, then the Pixel will come in, then the S23 will come in, then you'll have next generation OnePlus and all of those Xiaomi's come in. So it's a tidal wave.
Forgot to mention, we'll discuss about that. OnePlus 11 Pro has leaked.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. But then, when we talk about this whole iPhone and all those stuff, October 6th is the launch of the Pixel 7 series, right?
Yes.
And interestingly, we have a news coming in which says that Google is planning to move its 20% of manufacturing from Vietnam, or I think China, to India.
Vietnam to India.
Yeah, Vietnam to India, and only 20%, which sums up around 3 million units. I don't know, but it's the number on the internet. And because of this news coming in, people started to say that, okay, Pixel 7 and 7 Pro might be just there here in India. But what I think, let me be very honest, setting up a factory, finding a location to set up the factory, and the setup process, everything takes at least 1 or 1.5 years. And I do think that, okay, if the process speeded up by Google, I think, they might start manufacturing the Pixel 8 onwards, or maybe the 7A onwards, and then they might release that phone here in India. But I don't think the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro will come here. What do you think about this whole news? Google to manufacture Pixel in India. Can it affect the competitors like Samsung or Apple?
No, I don't think it will affect anybody for 2 reasons, right? Pixel manufacturing phones in India versus Pixel launching phones in India are 2 very different things. Just because they're manufacturing in India does not mean they will also launch it in India. Because in India, it's a price-sensitive market. Launching a Pixel 6a at 44K was definitely the wrong move. I agree that it's, import duties and everything. But even then, unless you find a way to price the phone correctly, the Pixel isn't going to sell as much in India. So, price the phone right, and it doesn't matter where it is manufactured. So if you're going to come to me and tell me that, because it's manufactured in India, it should be cheaper, slim chance of that happening, right? The components still need to be, imported. It's not like it's built from scratch up to India. So
no.
It depends on the pricing, I'd say. Then it doesn't make a difference to me where it is manufactured.
I mean, see, actually, in India, the highest imported phone previous year was the Pixel 6.
That's because it was not available. It was not because it was a great phone. It was just because it was never launched in India. So any phone that is not launched in India but is an amazing device will be imported once one way or the other, right?
Yeah, but the whole thing is, even Google. I just read it somewhere, but even Google hasn't seen this kind of demand for Pixel 6 in other
Correct.
countries. They saw a
Correct.
huge demand here in India. Let's not talk about the bugs and all those issues, because even I have the phone and I know how worse it is in terms of bugs.
Yep.
But then they realize the potential, and
Yeah,
of course,
sure.
India is a better place to manufacture things, because I think China has their own set of problems. The Taiwan thing. Let's not talk about politics, but again, their own set of problems. And I think that Google will bring its flagship here in India once it starts manufacturing its flagship phones. The reason being, again, you get a lot of subsidies just because you start manufacturing here, and because of that, there are chances for Google to bring its flagship devices.
See, I honestly don't doubt that they will bring it. I urge Google to bring it. Like, bring your flagships to India. India is a market where people buy iPhones for 1,50,000, where they buy the S22 Ultras for 1,10,000. There is no way anybody is going to call the Pixel 7 or the 7 Pro at 60,000 or 50, 70,000, whatever you price it as, overpriced. But in all fairness, Google is not a hardware company to begin with. So I don't
True.
think they intend or think in a way where, oh, we want to sell 200 million units in this year. They don't care. They want to bring out a best hardware plus software showcase phone, like a phone that showcases the latest and the greatest that Android can do, that Google can do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're not a hardware company. I don't think Google functions the same way that an Apple or a Samsung does. They're hardware companies. Google is not a hardware company. They're surprised that the Google hardware actually sells so well, and now
Yeah.
they're thinking about it. But they never intended to be make Pixel into a globally renowned bestseller. That was never the intention. The intention was to
Yeah.
make a phone that will showcase the best Android possible, the best that Android can do. Like, the
But
software was
I
the
do think,
crux.
yeah, I do think that Google can make really good products,
Oh
because
yeah, they can.
they have the
Of
software
course.
brilliance in them. They have the biggest database in the world, and
Of
that's why
course.
their camera is that's why their camera is clearly good. Like, just because of the database, the AI is able to analyze. I don't know. This is my own theory, but then they have the world's biggest database, and with that database, they can feed in the AI with the information that it needs to automatically understand what the scene is. Like, you call that
Correct.
scene detection and stuff, right?
Correct.
And because of that, it's able to understand the different kinds of skin tones. I can say that
Yeah.
Samsung and Pixel understands dark skin tones better than the iPhone. I do agree, for white people, like, or for colored people like us, the skin tones are okay in the iPhone. But for dark people, even in MKBHD's video, he showcased one of his selfies with the
Yeah.
iPhone 14 Pro, where his face was fully bleached out of like color or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. It was like overexposed. No, his
Yeah.
skin color was totally changing. But
Yeah.
if you see the picture that was taken with the Pixel or like a Samsung phone, I think that dark skin tones are good looking in Samsung and Pixel devices.
See, the thing
And that's
is, if
because
you
Google
look
has
at
that edge.
so if you look at the teams, right? That
Huh?
let's say I am Apple, right? Apple
Huh?
has they are getting there. It's not like they don't care. It's just that their images are flat overall, right? The exposure is a hit and miss even from the rear camera with non-portrait subjects also. Whereas, and I have experienced this firsthand. Like, you buy a Samsung phone in India versus you buy a Samsung phone in the US, the color science is very different. The color
Oh,
science is geographically
region
tuned.
wise?
Yeah.
Oh,
Even Vivo, even iQOO, they have separate teams within
surprising.
them. Yeah, for color science, right? So it will be tuned differently for China, Japan, Southeast Asia. It will be tuned
Wow.
differently for Europe. It will be tuned differently for US and differently for India.
I believe in China and all these Asian countries, they might have
The beauty
all the like
mode, the
filters. Yeah,
filters,
exactly.
correct. Because that's their culture,
Oh,
right? That's what they
interesting.
appreciate. That's what they like. So it's tuned differently. I don't know, because Apple is such a closed circuit company. I don't know if they have the same thing, but definitely, right? Their hardware needs tuning. All hardware, all software can get better. But I think For 90% of the people, if you buy a phone from either of these companies, you're going to be just fine with your everyday photography needs. You don't need to really go, just buy a Pixel, buy a Samsung, buy an iPhone. You're going to post it on social media, you're going to do Twitter, Instagram, whatever, TikTok, or whatever, other apps that you use, LinkedIn, whatever it is, wherever you're posting pictures, you're going to be just fine. It's going to compress the hell out of your image anyway. But here's the thing, right? If somebody comes to me and tells me that the iPhone 14 Pro Max is a great phone to buy in the US, or a Western YouTuber, let's say a MKBHD says iPhone 14 Pro Max is a best value for money phone that you can buy today, I'll probably understand why he's saying that, because that's in INR conversion, if I look at it, that's an 87,000 rupee phone.
Pro,
Whereas
right?
Pro Max,
Pro Max,
$1,000,
1,000.
$999.
Pro is 999. No,
No, that's $899. $999 Pro Max,
damn, it's a
$1,000.
great value phone. Yeah, of
Exactly.
course.
Whereas if you go and buy a Samsung S22 Ultra, of course you'll get deals and everything, but you compare launch prices, right? Launch prices are $1,100, $1,200. So when you say that the S22 Ultra is more expensive than the iPhone, now the iPhone starts becoming a value phone. Not because one is better than the other. It's just that for 80,000, it is more value for your money than the S22 Ultra. If you want to spend the extra, spend it. By all means, do it. Right? The Fold 4 is a $1,400 phone, and the iPhone 14 Pro Max is a $1,000 phone. There's a $400, there's a 40% gap. I can never imagine anyone saying that the Fold 4 is a good value for money phone.
Oh, never.
But you come down to India, and then when you watch that Western review, you have to keep that in mind, that he's comparing a $1,000. He's looking at it as an 80,000 rupee phone,
Yeah,
not as a 1,40,000 rupee phone, because then the game completely changes.
changes. Of
At
course.
1,40,000, there is no freaking way I'm saying that the iPhone is great value.
So yeah, we talked about the Google, Pixel being manufactured in India. Now something interesting happened last week. You said me that what if Apple brings in a hardware subscription for its
Oh,
devices?
dude.
Like we will be paying
Yeah.
fees, or some subscription
Rentals.
fee yearly to get iPhones
Yes.
every year.
Yes.
That news came in and it happened. I mean, okay, podcast listeners, I'm really sorry because there's some disturbance happening around me, and that's why you'll hear some weird noises. I'm really sorry for that. But yeah, let's get back to the topic: Apple's hardware subscription. So basically, let me explain that for you who are still wondering what is that. So when we were talking in the previous podcast, if you didn't hear, Shreyas actually told about one of his ideas, like Apple would probably bring a subscription plan in which we'll pay Apple every month or every year to get the latest iPhone whenever it releases for free. And I was like, okay, it was a good idea. Even I said in that podcast saying that it was a good idea. But after we recorded that podcast, after we have uploaded it, I think it was Wednesday, that news popped up in
Yeah, after a
Digit,
couple
in
of
the
days.
Verge. After a couple of days, that news started popping up in the Verge, in Digit, in many tech
Yeah.
media, and I was like, wow, dude, we guessed something. And
Yeah.
like, what do you think about it when you told about it, and what do you think about when you hear it is actually being tested by Apple?
See, it was just a matter of time before it happens. Like I explained in that podcast also, right? Right now, also, when you say you bought a phone, you haven't really bought the phone. You've bought
Mm-hmm.
the experience and you're paying rent for the hardware. That's what you're doing
Yeah.
right now, also. Um, so if you don't know how that works, we have it recorded on the earlier podcast. It's a story. So you might want to go and look back at it. But the concept is you're right now also you're just renting the hardware from the company. That's all you're doing.
True.
Might as well just make it a rental game to begin with. I think if you start doing that, I would probably start recommending the iPhone to people, because then it's a great game. That's a great game to play, because then you don't have to worry about depreciation, you don't have to worry about the cost. It's like a contract phone. That's how
Huh.
AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile work, right? Where you keep paying the cost off, you're anyways going to get your numbers and minutes to talk and
Minute.
texts and
Yeah.
everything.
Yep.
Once your contract has run out, you get a new phone. The same thing
Yeah.
happens on a rental. You pay a rent of whatever it is every month, rent the phone. The day the new phone launches and it's available on the platform, you say, okay, my rent just went up from whatever, 10,000 rupees to 12,000 rupees, but I have the latest and the greatest phone now. This rental program is great on a monthly basis if they do it on a monthly. I don't think they'll do it on a monthly basis. But it is great if they assure you upgrades. Like, when the new iPhone comes in, at the same cost, I'll be able to just keep upgrading. Like buying the new phone and maybe just increase the cost once in a while, once in 2 years.
But then Apple can't become a $1 trillion company if they do
They
that.
can. A lot
How?
of people today, so here's the thing, right? A lot of people today will not buy the iPhone like at the drop of the hat. Go into the store and say, okay, great phone, I want it, I want to buy it right now. They will not do it because the capital cost is 1,50,000 rupees.
Huh.
If I tell them that, dude, just pay 12,000 rupees every month, that's it. They will have a huge increase in their subscriber base. Because I don't have 1,50,000 right now, but I may have 12,000 rupees every month to spare.
But again, I don't think Apple will keep the value as same as the iPhone's value. I think they will drop it. Like, not maybe 12,000 rupees, maybe 6,000 or 7,000 rupees. Only then it makes sense.
No, they'll not half it for sure, because then it doesn't make sense.
Why? Then they can increase the sales by a lot of percentage.
No, but what do you do with the old phones? Like everybody who comes to you after 12 months, they will return a phone to you that is already a year old, that is already used, and plus you sold it for 60,000.
But I heard a thing like, if you, even in the Apple launch event, I think Tim or someone was saying that, every iPhone that they get for like an exchange, it'll have some portion of gold or something like that.
See, that they already have. Why would they break something which is already working? That's the concept, right? iPhones are already selling for 1,50,000. Why would you suddenly make them 60,000 rupees? Whether it's a subscription or not, it doesn't matter. If you're going to launch a subscription like that, I'm saying do a 5-year contract with the people. Then for the next 5 years, you cannot move away from the iPhone. Like if you want to sell a cheaper subscription, that's the only way it's going to work, right? If you want to make the iPhone cheaper, lock people in the contract, make sure they don't move away from the iPhone. So
greedy
if I tell
guys
you that
won't do that.
It's a choice. Like I know that if you tell me today that I'll sign a 5-year contract and pay 5,000 rupees every month, and whenever the 14 Pro Max launches, I'll get that. Whenever the 15 launches, I'll get that. Whenever the 16 launches, I'll get that. I'd probably do it. But that's just me. Because I'm going to buy the 14 Pro Max or 15 Pro Max anyways. If I'm getting it cheaper, I might just as well do it.
I was reading this news about the Apple hardware subscription. I scrolled down and I saw OnePlus 11 Pro being
yeah.
When I saw that, honestly, the first thing that got in my eyes was Hasselblad.
Yeah, I know.
It's the third year, I think, right? It's the third year that
it
they
started
use
with the OnePlus 9 Pro, or did it start with the 10? I'm not sure. Yeah.
With the 9, there was nothing it did. With the 10, there was nothing it did. I don't think so. It'll do something in the 11 Pro because see, Hasselblad is a great camera to begin with, but did it contribute anything to OnePlus except the filters? Nothing. But what do you think about the design? It is not very new. It's like that Huawei Mate 40 vibe kind of design. What do you think about that?
It looks like a slightly modified version of the 70 to me.
They've moved the middle circle to the left.
Correct. It's a offset of the 70. Yeah. The logo, everything else like typically looks like a 70. All you need is like that amazing frosty blue color that they had on the 70. And you're good to go, right? But I generally like circular camera arrays on the back. Again, it's just an aesthetic thing. It's just a design thing, right? So I like circular camera arrays. You give me any phone with either it has to be extremely clean or make it like absolutely in your face. Don't try to be on one side like that. Okay, we have a camera, but we don't want to make it a camera bump. So we're trying something. Make it a huge camera bump, like the biggest you've ever seen. Or don't make it a bump at all. Do what the S22 did. Make it bloody clean.
Yeah,
but
very clean.
It's aesthetic. It's preference. It's personal preference. About the Hasselblad thing, the one thing that I think consistently surprises me about Hasselblad and OnePlus is OnePlus keeps talking about Hasselblad a lot, even when they launch, right? Oh, Hasselblad this, Hasselblad that. Hasselblad never said anything about OnePlus at the launch. So what
That is very
happens
true.
is, typically, let's say if Realme does a Dragon Ball Z edition of the phone, then Dragon Ball Z is, their Twitter account, their social media are retweeting the photos. They are going all in and showing, oh, here's how we collaborated with Realme and stuff like that. And Realme is doing their part of the marketing. Hasselblad seems least interested in promoting OnePlus. And what that tells me
OnePlus.
is it may not actually be a true partnership, it's just licensing partnerships. Like we give you some stuff, use it the way you want it. End of story, right? I don't think
I
they're
think
involved in the lenses, the sensors, the camera, science behind it. I don't think
from
they're
what we are able to see, I don't think they are also involved. I mean,
exactly.
you can't compare it with the partnership that Leica had with Huawei, or Leica
Yeah.
is having with Xiaomi right now. I think with
Yeah.
the 1.9 sensor, the amount
Yeah.
of filters that Leica bought in the Mi 12s Ultra, right? It's
Hmm.
the Xiaomi Mi 12s Ultra.
Correct.
So it is not even as close to, like, I mean, in a good way, it is not close to what OnePlus did. Like, OnePlus is very bad. It didn't
Yeah.
do anything.
I think we've seen partnerships before. Like
Huh.
camera manufacturers and smartphones
Nokia
have
did, no?
been Nokia and Zeiss was the longest partnership ever.
That was beautiful. It was
Exactly.
good.
It worked out, right? Because they provided the right insights into the lens and camera science.
Of course, the
Even I
Windows
think
Phone.
Vivo partners with Zeiss for the T-star coating on the X80 Pro. It
Yeah, for
reduces
the
flares.
flaring. But it didn't bring flare in some reviews I saw.
Yeah, but those were induced flares. Like you want the flare to be there, right?
Oh,
Artistic flares though. But then
artistic.
again, it does reduce a lot of the flaring of the street lights and stuff like that when you're shooting at night. So T-star coating is great, right? That's a true hardware partnership or a true level partnership. This is basically branding, right? So I don't know
Another reason to
unless
make you buy.
yeah, unless OnePlus has actually worked with the team at Hasselblad to do something revolutionary. I don't think that partnership is making sense, or I would buy a phone just because it has like the Hasselblad name on it.
Like, after I saw OnePlus 11 Pro being leaked, I also quickly remembered that, oh, after one day, the world's first 200 megapixel phone is going to get launched. Guess what the phone is?
It's a Moto.
It's it's the Edge 30 Ultra.
And I'm,
If
I'm
you guys
laughing.
don't
I'm
know,
laughing because I'm surprised. I'm not laughing because it's a bad phone. I'm just surprised
why
that
why
Moto
are
pulled it.
come on? I mean, Moto is a really good brand. I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Moto. I mean, 5 or 6 years
I
ago, when
agree.
it was owned by Google,
Yeah.
but then it is now with Lenovo, and that's why it's surprising people. Suddenly, Moto comes out of the boom and starts manufacturing phones like G82, G62, G70. All those did really well against
No, no,
the
I'm not
Vivos and
surprised. I'm not surprised because of that. See, Motorola has always made good phones, right? But they have
always.
never actually made a phone that is truly camera centric. Like they don't say, if you buy a Moto phone, there are a couple of things that you already know, right? That the
Camera.
cameras are going to be okay. They're not going to be
Okay.
groundbreaking. It's going to have great software. It's going to look great. The design, the aesthetic, very ergonomic. It's going to function well. And it's going to be a budget phone. Because Motorola typically does not launch phones above or beyond the 50-55K segment. They've always
Huh.
played in the 37, 39. That's the top line Motorola's that you see. Now, out of the blue, you have Motorola, of all people, coming in with a world's first 200 megapixel, like a proper camera phone,
Yeah.
a 200 megapixel sensor, 8 plus Gen 1, great battery life, insanely good specs, and it's at what, 55, 54, 53K?
60,000 at the launch price, but in the BBD, Flipkart BBD, it's around 55.
That is crazy. That you do not see, that you do not expect Motorola to do. But I'm happy they did it. Like
Yeah.
now, Motorola has a flagship contender. It's not truly a flagship, but anything under the 50K range, it's probably going to be a much easier phone to recommend than any OnePlus, Xiaomi, iQOO, Vivo in that range.
Anyways, so let's wrap it up. But before that, we'll talk about the Pixel launch event that's going to take place on October 6th. We'll talk about that.
Wait, 6th
and
or
then we'll
7th?
slowly. It's October 6th. The launch date is 6th.
Oh,
I
6th.
think the
Okay.
devices will be available by 8. And then slowly we will end the podcast. But yeah, let's discuss about the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro launch event. What do you expect from the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro? Honestly, it's going to be a 20 to 30% increase in performance when you compare it with the previous generation of Tensor. That's the thing. Second thing, improved cameras, not very much improved, but a little bit. Again, 10 to 20%. And the third thing, one good software feature that every time Google reveals, like last time it was the live translation. And believe me, if some friends of yours have a Pixel 6a or the 6 with the Tensor processor, just try the live translation. It is better than any phone in the world. You take an iPhone near you, the way Google Tensor processes live translation, it is really great. It is genius. So something like that will be done in the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro launch event. So what do you think? These are my predictions. Just 20 to 30% performance increase.
I think there will be a little bit of a hardware change on the cameras. Like I fully expect some
Hardware
sort
change?
of, as in maybe a newer sensor,
But the same 50 megapixel though.
maybe a newer sensor.
Do you mean like what Apple did with its iPhone 14? Because I mean, even if you compare the 13 with it, the sensor is newer on the iPhone 14. It's newer and bigger.
Correct.
But the same 12 megapixel. Do you mean
Correct.
to say like that, or
I
altogether
mean,
a new?
no. I mean altogether a new sensor.
Oh, like even
Not
in
the
terms
12
of the
megapixel.
megapixel.
Not the 12 megapixel that they've been using on the regular pixels.
Now it's the 50 megapixel on the 50.
Pixel 6A. I'm talking 6A.
6A.
Yeah.
So the 7, you believe that the 7 Pro will have a different sensor, or the 7
Yes,
will have?
7 Pro.
Will it be a megapixel bump or the same sensor with the bigger size?
Bigger size. Same sensor, bigger size.
That is interesting. But see, the problem with Google is they will only take things that's tried, tested, and works well. They will never ever go with a new hardware altogether because they are not sure about their software doing well with that particular hardware. Because all the past 4 years, I've seen Google using the same 12 megapixel sensor.
I know.
And you know, even if you take the Pixel 4 and compare it with the photos of iPhone 13, there are some scenarios where the Pixel 4 actually wins over the iPhone 13.
Oh yeah,
And that's
for sure.
that's because of the computational photography and all those, you know, software processing happening. So
Correct.
with the 50 megapixel sensor, it's the first time that Google is trying to use it, and it worked well, decently well on the Pixel 6. But if you say, will they use a new sensor? It is interesting though.
See,
I
on
don't
the 7
remember the
Pro,
leaks.
there are like no leaks point at it. But I honestly want them to use a new primary sensor because I know it's tried and tested, but that does not make it any better. You're still going to improve on it over a period of time, any which ways. I don't see a big performance gain on that. I think the AI and the computational thing will improve. Like they will have, better connectivity, better modems, and all of that.
Come on.
It's
Google
what?
has to improve that.
It's 2 plus 2 plus 4, right? The core configuration right now.
Yeah, 2 plus 2 plus 4.
Yeah, it's going to be remain 2 plus 2 plus 4. It's just that probably the efficiency cores and everything else is like better optimized. The battery life definitely is going to improve. That I can tell you.
It
They have to
should
work on
improve
the
because
efficiency.
the battery life on the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro is like really, really bad. And
Correct.
the network uses a lot of battery.
Exactly why I said that. I think modem optimization is and connectivity, right? So something that they will really, really work on is the connectivity, especially in India or globally, because that's the one thing that is hampering the chipset from performing well on battery. And of course, you'll have your regular incremental upgrades on the OS and the security chip on it. All of that is like fine. It doesn't affect my daily workflow. And I think you will
Negligible
get
difference.
one crazy camera feature.
Huh. Okay.
I don't know what it is, but
Like
every
the
year,
Magic Eraser?
see, every year you've gotten one crazy camera feature that nobody expected. Every year.
What was it last year? The Magic Eraser, no?
Magic Eraser and that group.
The Real Tone.
the group thing where you can actually pick out. You can actually search in groups. So you would never be able to do that in Google Photos earlier. It's a very
Oh
slow,
yeah.
silent push. But now I can search for group photos.
Oh yeah. That's true. No, that's something we can expect, and that's when we talk about the phones that's going to launch on 6th. There
Yeah.
are something else that's going to launch with the
Oh, the
Pixel 7,
watch.
the watch. Do
And
you think
probably, fingers crossed, the
the fold?
foldable. Pixel tablet, of course, it's coming.
And they'll tell more about the Pixel tablet. I
Yeah.
think it will come with the second generation tensor. No, will it come with the
Second,
first
second
generation?
generation. Second generation.
Of course. Oh, it's 2023, no? So probably
Yeah.
the second
Second
generation tensor.
generation.
But then I'm really excited for the watch because I really want to know whether they will be able to compete against Samsung in the hardware. And so again, keep in mind they're partnering with Fitbit, so
Yeah.
the fitness and all those stuff, might be good. So all the Samsung users, just wait for what is Google. I am having high hopes. And by the way, did you see Sundar Pichai wearing that particular
Pixel
Apple
watch.
Watch in an event? I
Pixel
mean, oh,
watch.
sorry, it was a Pixel Watch again. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, and what do you think about the Pixel Watch? I think it can perform better than the Galaxy Watch 4 in terms of the battery. I don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't know.
It's an
See,
interesting
still,
design.
it's an interesting design. It's a slightly more bold design. I'll give you that. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to perform better than the Galaxy Watch or not because as far as I know, they're going to use the same chipsets. So
Chipset 4? Oh, the W920, which is in the Samsung.
correct. It's the same
They'll
chipset
name
that
it
they're going
Tensor
to
Watch,
use.
no?
I don't think they're going to name it Tensor Watch. Dude,
Watch Tensor for Watch. No, nothing like
they're
that.
using
I
they're
don't know.
using the same chipset on the Samsung as well. And Samsung will also have to call it a Tensor, no? Because there
No,
is
I
no
mean
AI
they're doing
algorithm on it.
no, they're doing the same thing for Tensor chips for the phone, I believe, because they took the 2100 from Samsung, tweaked it a
Correct.
bit, gave it a Google name for it, and
No,
called it
this one
Tensor.
isn't tweaked, right? This one isn't tweaked. We don't know if it's
I
tweaked,
mean,
rather.
we don't know. I mean,
Correct.
if they tweak and if they call it Tensor for Watch, there's no surprise because
Yeah,
Google does
whatever
that.
you want to call it is fine. What I want to know is what does it do better than the
What does it
older
do better than?
generation?
Yeah.
I think it's going to have a great display for sure. It looks like a great display. I think it's going to, from the way I look at the bands, it's going to be a very comfortable watch for sure. And it's not going to be a small watch. That I can see from,
Yeah.
it's
Of
not going to be
course,
a 40 kind of a watch. No, it's not a
of
small
course.
watch for sure. But again, Sundar is wearing like a very beige colored watch band and thing. So maybe it has two variants. I don't know. I don't see Google doing that for their first watch. But
GPS and LTE. No?
no, I mean like 42 and 44
Oh no.
or size wise. Because it looks like a
But
big
I think
watch.
there is a rumor which says that there are 4 variants. I don't know. There are
That's
some
then
rumors.
4 variants is basically LTE Wi-Fi, right? So 42 Wi-Fi LTE, 44 Wi-Fi LTE.
Oh yeah.
So that makes it four
Correct.
variants.
Correct.
It's always going to be
Correct.
2 by 2, right? But I
Two
don't I
by
don't
two.
think
Yeah.
they'll take that big of a risk for their first wearable. It doesn't make sense.
But
But
Samsung has, Samsung has their hand on it. I believe.
oh yeah, for sure. Like where
Samsung
if you
supported
want to
them.
buy a non-Apple smartwatch today, smartwatch, mind you, not a smart band. So all the Amazefates and everything is out. It is always going to be a Samsung. There is nothing else that is
Hands down.
like
I agree.
it's all
I
Samsung.
agree. I didn't believe that Samsung will do well in the wearables until and unless I bought it for myself. I'm loving it. I have the Series 7 with me also, but when I compare it directly, it's a really tough competitor for the series.
It
It's
is.
not as accurate as Apple Watch, but then I can say it is a really tough competitor. Garmin didn't do it. Garmin only okay. Garmin doesn't only make Wear OS watches, but with the Wear OS, TicWatch didn't do it. TicWatch is a great watch, but it didn't do well as like Samsung did. So I think Samsung is the best smartwatch that you can buy right now. I don't know
Oh yeah.
whether that position will be replaced by Google. I'm a
It'll
little
take
bit worried
time.
about the durability.
I'm sure you'll have competitors like the TicWatch has come really really close to
Of course.
I like the TicWatch. I honestly do, but it's not as well thought of on the UI front as the Samsung is. I'm pretty sure in some time smartwatches will become better and cheaper. That will happen over a period of time. For now, at least from what we can see for the next 6-8 months, Samsung is ruling the smartwatch market for sure on the Android side.
For sure. Yep. Anyways, whatever it is, like, we are gonna wait and watch what is gonna happen on October 6th. I'm really excited. Maybe if everything goes well, I might also have an hands on the Pixel 7 or the 7 Pro. Let's see. Fingers crossed.
Super cool.
I believe that it is better in terms of iPhone 14 Pro, at least the camera.
Our device that hasn't even been launched yet. Dude, that is super confidence.
I don't know. I always believe Pixels are better than iPhones. But I don't know. Let's see.
I like
Fingers
Pixels.
crossed. Yeah.
I hope they are better, for sure.
Better than the previous ones, for sure.
Better than iPhones. Like, at least in terms of performance. Because historically, Pixels have always had great cameras, but even performance-wise, right? The Pixel 6a suffers from the 60 hertz. You don't want Google to do the same thing that Apple is doing. That's what my hope is. They don't make it like only the base variant will have 60 hertz and everyone will have 120. Don't do that. Do it 120 AMOLED throughout. Increase the price by 10K. That's fine. There
are buyers.
Yeah, of course there are buyers. 6A is overpriced. Only it's overpriced because it has got a bad display and bad battery life. If you fix those, if you put an AMOLED 120 hertz on the 6A, and if you put a phenomenal battery life on the 6A, even at 40K, 6A becomes a great buy. Automatically becomes an amazing buy, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing else wrong with the 6A. So yeah, just make a proper phone.
That is it for today's podcast, and next week we'll come up with a lot more interesting topics, especially during the next week. We'll be in the week of sale. The Big Billion Day will be there at that time, and we also will have the Amazon Great Indian Festival going on at that time. So we'll have a much more clear insight on what are the phones that you should buy on the sale. So don't miss out on the next episode which is gonna come. It's going to be really interesting and also useful. I also believe that this episode was also the same, interesting and useful. Tell me about your opinions in the comment section. If you're watching this through YouTube, if you're listening to this through Spotify or any other podcast streaming platforms, then do drop us a message on our Twitter handle. For Stress, it's Mechnizmo, Mechnizmo. Am I right?
Yep, correct.
And for me, it is Tech Arena OFCL. Not official, it's OFCL. Anyways, so yep, that is it for today's podcast. Hope you really like it. And Shreyas, tell your outro.
No, it's just that my outro is it. I am out. Thank you so much.
See you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.